Story 1. The Man Who Knocked. I had been working from home long enough that the days started blending together in a way that felt safe. Same mug, same laptop, same quiet hallway, outside my door. The apartment complex was one of those beige boxes where every building looked identical, and the only thing that changed was which neighbor slammed their door harder. I lived alone in a third-floor unit on the edge of the property. I liked it that way. No roommates, no drama, no one touching my stuff. Just silence, controlled, predictable. Then one afternoon, right after a call ended, someone knocked. Not the doorbell, not a tap like a delivery driver. 3 slow knocks, spaced out, like whoever was on the other side was practicing patience. I froze with my fork halfway to my mouth. I had leftover pasta cooling on the counter and my laptop still open on the table. I wasn't expecting anyone. Nobody ever came by without texting first. The leasing office never came unannounced either. They sent emails. They left notices. I walked to the door quietly and looked through the peephole. A man stood there like he belonged. Late 30s, maybe early 40s. Neat polo shirt. Clipboard in one hand. Sunglasses pushed up on his head like he'd just walked in from the sun. A radio clipped at his waist. The whole outfit was a costume made of confidence. He looked straight at the door like he knew I was there. His voice came through the wood. Casual. Almost bored. He said he was maintenance. Something about checking the water heaters. He said there was a leak below, and they needed to make sure the units above were fine. I did not open the door. I asked for identification. That was when the air shifted. He let out a small breath, like I was being difficult. Then he spoke again, slightly sharper, like the mask slipped a millimeter. He said he didn't have time for that. He said it would take a minute. He said, "Just open the door so I can finish this." The words were normal. The pressure under them was not. I told him I would call the office and confirm. He stood there silent for a second, not moving, not walking away, just waiting, like he wanted me to feel him on the other side. Then he muted his voice like he was talking to someone on the radio. As he turned to leave, the radio cracked softly, not static, but a voice saying one word: "Next." He walked down the hall, calm, like he knew he wouldn't need to argue, like he had other doors to try. I locked the deadbolt, then I locked the chain I never used, then I put the bar across the handle, even though it made me feel stupid. My hands were shaking, not in a dramatic way, more like my body had decided something was wrong before my brain finished negotiating with it. I called the leasing office. No answer. Lunch break. I left a message. Then I sent an email, because I wanted it in writing. I sat back down and tried to eat, but the food tasted like nothing. I wanted it in writing. I wanted it in writing. I wanted it in writing. I wanted it in writing with questions. I wanted it in writing. 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 The next hours felt long in a new way. Every footstep in the hall made my heart start running. Every elevator ding made me look up. I kept the volume low on the TV without realizing I was doing it. Late afternoon, the property manager finally called me back. Her name was different than the one on the welcome packet, but her tone was the same kind of exhausted competence. I told her everything: the shirt, the clipboard, the radio, the way he pushed for the door like it was his right. She went quiet. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. They had no maintenance scheduled, no leak reports. No one on their team matched the description, and no one was going door to door that day. She asked me to come to the office the next morning. She said they had cameras. That night I slept like I was waiting for something to touch the doorknob. I checked the locks more times than I want to admit. I pulled a heavy dresser a few inches closer to the door. Like that would stop someone who already looked like they belonged here. In the morning, I walked to the office as soon as they opened. The manager met me with a look that said I was not the first person sitting in that chair. She turned the monitor toward me and said, "You are not the only one." Then she played the footage. There he was, same polo, same clipboard, same sunglasses. He walked up to another unit across the courtyard, knocked slowly, waited, then left. Then another door, same pattern. Calm, patient, like he was testing people, not doors. The manager rewound and paused on his face. The image was clear enough to feel personal. He didn't look wild, he didn't look high. He looked like a guy you would let in if you were tired and not thinking. She told me every unit he approached belonged to a woman living alone. Every visit was during work hours. Every knock was slow. Every exit was quiet. The worst part was how little it took. No fake badge, no tool bag, just a clipboard and a tone that made you want to stop asking questions. She said they had called the police that morning. Another tenant had opened the door a crack before getting a bad feeling and slamming it shut. He did not force his way in. He did not have to. He was fishing for the one person who would. I walked back to my building and everything looked different. The courtyard felt like a stage. The stairwells felt like hiding places. Every man in a polo made my skin tighten. That week, I bought a new lock. Then another one. I added a door camera, even though I hated the idea of watching my own home like it was a crime scene. I bought a door wedge so heavy it felt like overkill. And still, every time someone walked past my door, I held my breath. A few days later, the complex sent out an email with a blurry photo and a warning. Do not open the door for anyone claiming to be maintenance. Verify with the office. Call police if you see him. I saved the photo to my phone. A couple weeks after that, I was taking trash out when I saw a man in a polo crossing the parking lot with a clipboard. My body reacted before my mind did. I turned so fast I nearly dropped the bag. It was not him, but the way my heart kept hammering told me something I did not want to admit. It was not about that one man. It was about the fact that he had walked up to my door like he had done it before. Like he knew the script. Like he knew most people would not want to be rude. Like he knew some people would open, just to make the pressure stop. The police never sent a follow-up. The office never said they found him. The email updates slowed and then stopped. And the complex went back to normal. But normal did not feel the same after you see a stranger on a screen moving from door to door like he is shopping. I still work from home. I still like living alone. I just do not answer knocks anymore. And sometimes, late in the afternoon when the hallway gets quiet, I catch myself listening for 3 slow knocks spaced out like someone is practicing patience. Because the most uncomfortable thought is not that he tried once. It is that the only reason I know about him at all is because I did not open the door. And whoever he was, he learned something that day too. He learned which doors stay closed, and he learned he has to keep looking for the one that does not. Story 2. The Tire Iron Man. I was living in a rented duplex just outside a mid-size Ohio town during the late spring of a recent year. It was one of those in-between neighborhoods that never feel fully safe or fully dangerous. Quiet streets, narrow yards, chain-link fences that look more symbolic than useful. I had moved in barely a month earlier for a contract job at a logistics company nearby, and most days were routine. Coffee, laundry, background noise from a show I did not even care about. That Saturday morning was slow and ordinary, the kind of day where nothing should stand out. I had one window cracked open just enough to let in air, and I remember thinking how peaceful it felt. Then I noticed him. Across the street, a man pacing back and forth along the sidewalk near an empty lot, not jogging, not waiting for a ride, not walking a dog, just moving like he could not decide whether to leave or stay. He kept glancing at my unit, turning sharply, then pacing again. Tall, baggy denim jacket, something in his hand I could not make out from that distance. At first I tried to rationalize it. Maybe he was lost. Maybe he was looking for an address. But the longer I watched, the more it felt wrong, because his attention kept returning to my front door. When I stepped outside to shake out a rug, he stopped instantly. Not a polite pause, not a casual look. He froze and stared straight at me, as if I had interrupted something private. No nod, no hello, no expression, just unblinking eye contact that made my skin tighten. I muttered a quiet greeting out of instinct and went back inside, telling myself to stop being dramatic. Less than 2 minutes later, there was a knock. Not loud, not urgent. Tap, tap, a pause, tap, like he was still deciding if he should even be there. I opened the door but kept the chain on. He stood on the bottom step, looking up like he was trying to remember a script. His voice was calm, oddly distant. He asked if a woman named Janine had lived here. Or maybe Jennifer. He blinked slowly, like he was searching for the right bait. I told him I had only been there a short time and did not know the previous tenants. He nodded, looked past me into the house, not at my face, into the space behind me, as if he was checking for something. Then he muttered, "Right, okay," and turned away without a goodbye. He did not walk back across the street. He walked around the side of the duplex toward the laundry room entrance. That detail stuck in my throat. I waited by the front window, pretending to look at my phone while peeking through the blinds. After a minute, he was gone. I locked the door, checked the deadbolt, and for the first time since moving in, I wedged a chair under the knob like my dad used to do in cheap motels. It felt ridiculous. I told myself it was just instinct. 20 minutes passed. I tried to return to normal. I was rinsing a pan when I heard a sound that did not belong. Metallic, hollow, a scraping clink of metal forced where it should not be. I paused, listened. The sound came again, faint but deliberate. I moved toward the back of the house slowly. Through the side window near the laundry room, I saw him. He was back. This time, he was crouched at the side door, shoulders tense, using a tire iron to wedge into the frame, not fumbling, not panicking, working like he knew exactly where the weak point was. For a few seconds, I did not feel fear. I felt disbelief, like my brain refused to accept what my eyes were seeing. He was breaking in as casually as someone opening a stubborn window. He did not look over his shoulder. He did not rush. He looked practiced. I backed away without making a sound, grabbed my phone from the living room, and locked myself in the downstairs bathroom. It was the only room with no window and a bolt inside. I sat on the floor, knees pulled in, breathing shallow, and dialed emergency services with hands that did not feel like mine. My pulse hammered in my ears so loud I almost missed the first crack of wood. Then it came sharp, splintering, like a bone breaking. The door gave way. Silence. Not empty. Full, heavy, like the air itself had stepped inside. The operator kept talking calmly, asking if I could hear footsteps. At first I could not. Then I heard him. Slow steps across the kitchen tile. Heel. Pause. Heel. Like he was listening between each movement. Not searching in a frantic way. Moving with patience. But worse than the sound was the smell, cigarette smoke and wet denim, drifting under the bathroom door like he was leaning against it. I pressed my back into the wall until my spine ached, afraid even my heartbeat would give me away. I stared at the bottom of the bathroom door, waiting to see a shadow pass. The knob did not rattle. He did not test the bolt. Instead, I heard something worse. Fingers brushing along the edge of the door, faint, almost gentle, like he was feeling where it met the frame. Then nothing. He stopped. The stillness lasted so long my muscles started to cramp from holding myself rigid. In my mind, I pictured him standing right outside, head tilted, deciding whether I was inside, deciding what came next. Minutes crawled. The operator told me police were close. I did not move. Then I heard a voice outside, muffled. "Police. If anyone is inside, call out." The words hit me like oxygen. I shouted before thinking. I slid the bolt back with shaking hands and opened the door like a prisoner stepping into daylight. 2 officers met me near the front. They asked where he was. They swept the duplex. The side door was hanging open, the frame damaged, but the house was empty. No man, no tire iron, no stolen items. Nothing moved. Just the fact that someone had been inside and left before the police could catch him. The officers took my statement. When I described him, pale skin, shaved head, dark circles like he had not slept in weeks, one of them exchanged a look with the other. "We have had calls about someone similar," he said quietly. "But this is the first time he actually forced entry." That sentence lodged deep. Calls. Similar. Meaning he had been doing this, circling neighborhoods, knocking, asking names, testing doors, waiting for a mistake. I did not sleep that night. I sat on the couch with every light on, listening to the pipes, to the settling wood, to sounds that had always been there, but now felt like footsteps. The next day I replaced the lock. I added motion lights. I bought a door bar. And still, the worst part was not the break-in itself. It was how calm he had been. The way he knocked, like he was polite. The way he asked for Janine or Jennifer, like he had a list of names he rotated through. The way he moved through the house without rushing. Like he did not care whether I was home, like he only cared whether I would open the wrong door. I moved out 3 months later. People told me it was just a prowler, just a thief. But thieves usually take something. He did not take anything. He came in, stood in the silence, and left. And sometimes I think that was the point. Not stealing, not even hurting, just reminding me how easily someone can step into your life if they find the one weak spot. Even now, years later, when I hear a soft knock, not loud, not urgent, just tap, tap, pause, tap, I feel my stomach tighten, because somewhere out there, a man with a tire iron learned exactly how quiet fear can be, and he learned that the door does not always protect you the way you think it does. Story 3. The maintenance clipboard. I was working from home when it happened. One of those quiet stretches where the apartment starts to feel like the whole world. Same hallway, same walls, same dull silence behind every door. I lived alone on the 3rd floor of a beige complex outside Phoenix. Nothing special, nothing memorable. The kind of place where nobody looks at anyone for longer than a second. That day was normal. Too normal. I finished a call in the early afternoon and stood in the kitchen reheating leftovers when I heard it. 3 knocks. Slow, heavy. Not the buzzer, not a delivery. Knuckles. Right on the wood. I froze. Nobody came by without texting first. Nobody ever knocked like that. I stepped to the peephole. A man stood there holding a clipboard. Navy polo, short beard. Sunglasses pushed up on his head. A walkie-talkie clipped at his waist. There was a patch on his shirt, but the peephole blurred it into nothing. Just the suggestion of something official. He was close to the door. Too close. Like he wanted me to feel him there. His voice came through, casual and practiced. Maintenance. Checking water heaters. Leak downstairs. Only take a minute. The way he said it sounded memorized. Like he had done it already today. Like I was supposed to open the door without thinking. I didn't. I asked for identification. That was all. Just one question. And something changed. Not anger, not shouting. A shift, like a mask tightening. He paused, then his voice sharpened. "Ma'am, I'm maintenance. It's a quick check. Open the door so I can finish this." My stomach dropped. The pressure in his tone wasn't normal. Real maintenance doesn't push. Real workers show a badge. They don't stand inches from your door like they own it. I told him I wasn't comfortable letting anyone in without confirming with the leasing office. Silence. He stared at the door for a long second. Then he muttered something low, something irritated, and walked away. Not fast, not nervous, just left, like he knew he could come back whenever he wanted. I stayed at the peephole until he disappeared down the corridor. My hands were shaking. I slid the deadbolt, then the bar lock I had never used before. I called the leasing office immediately. No answer. Lunch hour. I left a message, sent an email, wanted it on record. The rest of the afternoon felt wrong. Every sound in the hallway made my shoulders tighten. Every footstep outside made me stop breathing. Around 4, the property manager called back. Her name was Lisa. Practical, flat. I described him. Polo, clipboard, walkie-talkie. She went quiet. Then she said, "Slow, careful. We have no maintenance checks scheduled today." None of our staff matched that description. My mouth went dry. She asked if I could come in the next morning. Security footage. I barely slept that night. Every creak was louder. I checked the locks 3 times. I shoved the dresser an inch closer to the door like that would stop someone who wanted in. I kept thinking about the clipboard, how normal it looked, how easy it would have been to believe him. The next morning I went straight to the office. Lisa was already there with Kenny, the real maintenance guy. Short, balding, friendly. Someone I'd actually seen fixing dryers before. Lisa didn't waste time. She pulled up the camera feed. She looked at me and said, "You're not the only one." She hit play, and there he was. Same man, same shirt, same clipboard. Standing outside another unit across the courtyard. Knock, wait, speak through the door, walk away. Lisa scrubbed forward. He did it again. Another building, another door. Another woman alone behind it. 4 apartments in one morning. Same pattern. Enough to scare. Not enough to break the law in a way that gets him caught. Smart, calculated. Lisa printed stills of his face. Said police were already involved. Said they'd send a notice out to tenants. I walked back to my building feeling like everything looked the same but wasn't. The courtyard. The cars. The doors lined up like teeth. I started noticing how many women lived alone here. How many locks depended on trust. 2 days later, I saw him again. Not in the hallway. Not outside. Down near the leasing office. Talking to Kenny. Laughing. Sharing a cigarette like they were old friends. My stomach turned so hard it felt like nausea. Kenny had his arm half around him. Casual. Normal. Like this man belonged here. When Kenny saw me, his smile dropped. He said something under his breath. The man glanced at me once, just once, then turned and walked toward the maintenance shed, like he had a reason to go there, like he had access. That afternoon, I went back to Lisa. I showed her the still image. I asked, "Is he one of your contractors?" Lisa stared, her face drained. "No," she whispered. "But I think I know him," she swallowed hard. "Derek, he used to work here. Fired 6 months ago. Theft. Tenant keys missing. Complaints from women." The room felt colder. Lisa kept talking, but I barely heard it. He knew the layout. He knew the routines. He knew which doors belonged to women alone. He wasn't guessing. He wasn't trying random apartments. He was checking the ones that would open. He was waiting for one mistake. I went home and stared at my door for a long time. That stupid peephole. That thin chain lock. All of it felt like paper. The police never caught him while I lived there. They told us to be careful. Don't open the door. Call if you see him. Like that fixes anything. I moved out 3 weeks later. Not because something happened, because nothing did, because he didn't need to rush, because the worst part wasn't a break-in. The worst part was knowing he could stand outside your door in a navy polo with a clipboard, and most people would let him in. And maybe, somewhere else, in another complex that looks exactly like mine, a woman is hearing 3 slow knocks right now, and a man is standing too close to her door, holding a clipboard, waiting. Closing. Tales of the Darkness. This concludes tonight's stories. But if you're still listening, it means the silence around you hasn't felt empty for a while. And that's usually when it starts. These stories don't end when the video does. They stay in familiar rooms. They repeat sounds you recognize. They wait for moments when nothing seems to be happening, because that's when you stop guarding yourself. So tonight, pay attention to knocks that feel too patient, to voices that answer before you finish speaking, to documents that say one thing, but carry another meaning underneath. If you want more stories like these where the horror doesn't scream, it just watches, learns, and waits, subscribe to Tales of the Darkness. New stories arrive regularly, and they don't need to be invited to stay. Good night.